Hey guys, this is a brief lecture on your Unit 5 of the Module 1 vocabulary from your English Vocabulary text. Now first I'll be reading the passage and then we'll take a look at the exercises. But I've also marked some of the difficult words and phrases in the passage, and in the exercises you can again see these words because they have asked questions based on these words that I have marked. So without further ado, let's start reading the passage. And this passage is taken from Our Films, Their Films, an essay written by Satyajit Ray. Once the casting is done, I'm ready to plunge headlong into the business of shooting. So once the casting is done, I'm ready to plunge headlong. The phrase plunge headlong is used there, and it is a quite unusual phrase. When you hear the words plunge, immediately you think of diving into a water body. And plunge headlong, you might associate it with diving into water. But do remember that these are phrasal words or idioms, right? These are phrasal verbs or idioms for that matter, and idioms are never taken in a literal sense. They have a metaphorical meaning. So here plunge headlong means to get fully involved, right? So once the casting is done, I'm ready to get fully involved into the business of shooting. That is the meaning that comes here. It does not bang your head. It does not dive into the water, though it may appear as a literal meaning, but plunge headlong means to get fully involved. It's a metaphorical meaning since this is an idiom, right? Once the casting is done, I'm ready to plunge headlong into the business of shooting, which can be replaced by I'm ready to get fully involved into the business of shooting. The studios of Calcutta show their hallowed past in every crevice in the wall. So show their hallowed past, right? What is the meaning of hallowed? Hallowed has nothing to do with Halloween or horrors or anything like that. Hallowed is a word, it's a verb that comes from the noun hallow. Hallow is roughly translated in Malayalam as Divya Prabha. നമ്മൾ ഹാലോഡ് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം ദിവ്യപ്രഭ എന്നാണ്. വെൻ യു സീ ദ പിക്ചേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് ഗോഡ്സ് ആൻഡ് ഗോഡസസ്, ദ പെയിൻറ്റിങ്സ് ഓഫ് ഗോഡ്സ് ആൻഡ് ഗോഡസസ് ഫോർ ദാറ്റ് മാറ്റർ, യു ഓഫൻ സീ എ ഹാലോ around their heads, right? So hallow in that sense is closely associated with the word holy. So here hallowed past means, here it means holy past of the studios in Calcutta. So it is something sacred, the sacred or holy past of the studios in Calcutta, right? So here hallowed is closest in meaning to holy. It's not ancient, it's not hollow, or neither is it unknown. Hallowed is closest in meaning to the word holy here. So hallowed past here means holy past. In every crevice, take note of this word because they might ask a question related with this word crevice, right? Crevice adinte spelling okke ഒന്ന് നോട്ട് ചെയ്തു വെക്കാം. In every crevice in the wall, in every nook and cranny in the wall, in every tatter on the canvas, in every hole on the canvas that covers the ceiling. So a canvas is covering the ceiling, so there is a hole in the canvas. Tatter means a hole, and tatter, the word is often associated with the word cloth. Tattered clothes, right? It collocates with the word cloth. Cloth എന്ന വേർഡുമായിട്ട് എപ്പോഴും അസോസിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന, അതുമായിട്ട് ചേർന്ന് പോകുന്ന വേർഡാണ് ടാറ്റർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഹോളുകളുള്ള ക്ലോത്തിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ടാറ്റർ ക്ലോത്ത് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ടാറ്റർ ഓൺ ദ ക്യാൻവസ് ദറ്റ് കവേഴ്സ് ദ സീലിംഗ്. സോ ടേക്ക് നോട്ട് ഓഫ് ദ വേർഡ് ടാറ്റർ ടു. സോ ഹിയർ ടാറ്റർ means holes in the canvas. Some of the families of rodents that inhabit the rafters have lived there ever since the foundation of the industry. Now, what do you mean by rodents? Rodents are small animals, rats, mice and the like, right? Mice and rats, they come under the family of rodents. So, some families of rodents that inhabit the rafters. Rafters are the skeletal structures upon which you build a roof. Roof build ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് മുന്നേ അതിന് ഒരു skeletal structure കൊടുക്കും, right? You build a skeletal structure first and then you put on the roof. That kind of a structure is known as rafter. So the rodents that inhabit the rafters, the rodents that live in the rafters, have lived there ever since the foundation of the industry, has lived there ever since the beginning of this industry, ever since the foundation stone of the industry was placed. The floor is pitted. What is the meaning of pitted? The floor is pitted. Pitted means a floor that is filled with bumps. Pitted. Pitted, the word meaning is a rough surface, right? A rough surface or filled with ബമ്പുകളുള്ള എന്നൊക്കെ അർത്ഥം വരുന്നതാണ് pitted എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. The floor is pitted. It is a very rough surface. The camera groans as it turns. The camera groans, it makes a loud noise when it turns. So here camera is being personified because it is groaning. The camera groans as it turns. It makes loud noise as it turns. The voltage begins to drop after sundown. After sundown, the voltage drops. So they shoot in a very pitiable condition. The air of shabbiness is unnerving. The air of shabbiness means the entire structure, the entire studio is old and rackety. The old as well as it is of functional use. Shabbiness in it is quite old to the extent that you cannot use it further for a long time. It has become quite old and unusable, right? Shabbiness means it has become quite old and unusable. So it is unnerving. The general air of shabbiness is unnerving. Shabbiness here means the quality of being old or in a bad condition. Unnerving, here the word means disheartening. It is quite disheartening to see the general air of shabbiness that is there in the atmosphere of these studios. And yet I do not mind these at all. I do not think of these as hindrances. I do not think of these as hindrances. Hindrances means as obstructions. Please take note of the word hindrances, because hindrances is a word that people often spell in a very wrong manner. Hindrances. Since most of us say hindrances instead of hindrances, we might add a E there. Hindrances. But here it is hindrances, right? So hindrances means obstructions. I do not think of these as hindrances or obstructions. After all, we have the essentials to make a film, and it is within us to make it badly or well. So Satyajit Ray never took any of these pitiable condition as an obstruction for his work. Because after all, they all have the essentials, the bare minimum essentials to make a film. And if a film turns out bad, then we are also responsible for its bad collection, right? It is the bareness of means that forces us to be economical and inventive. So he says that since we don't have much, since the production companies in India are not that wealthy, since they don't have much, they try to be economical. They try to cut down the cost of production, and they try to be inventive. They try to be creative, right? And prevents us from turning craftsmanship to an end in itself. So here we turn towards more craftsmanship, right? They make do with whatever that they have. And there is something about creating beauty in the circumstances of shoddiness. So he says that there is something about creating beauty in the circumstances of shoddiness. Shoddiness is again a word which is very much similar to shabbiness, but shoddiness means again in a very bad condition. Shoddiness means a state of being badly made or carelessly made, right? So they create beauty in circumstances of shoddiness, in circumstances where things are built in a bad manner or in a careless way using materials of low quality, right? Shoddiness is closely associated with the word shabbiness. Shabbiness means old and of bad quality. Shoddiness means built with low quality materials, right? Again, both have the same meaning, bad quality. And privation, that is truly exciting. So, and there is something about creating beauty in circumstances of shoddiness and privation that is truly exciting. Privation, the word is closely associated with the word deprivation. If you have only essentials to work with and nothing else, then that is a sense of privation. There is a sense of privation. Privation means that you don't even have the essentials to work with. That is privation. Essentials പോലും ഇല്ലാത്തൊരു അവസ്ഥയാണ് നമ്മൾ privation എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Deprivation means you don't even have the essentials to lead a life, right? So that is truly exciting about cinema, that they get to create things out of shoddiness and privation. Yes, I am happy to be working where I am. So I hope that you took note of the meanings that we discussed. Now we shall move on to the exercises. Plunge headlong means to get fully involved. We discussed it. Hallowed is closest in meaning to holy. It is not hollow, it is not ancient, it is holy. Hallowed past means holy past. Here it is a reference to the holy past of Indian cinema. Dash is a synonym for the word creative. Inventive is the synonym of the word creative, right? Inventive. You might write creating, but that is not the synonym. The word creating is like a participle form of creative, but here the word that is synonymous or similar in meaning to creative is inventive. Now there are two words, right? Invention and discovery. Usually explorers discover new lands. The lands were already there, but they go to that place and they discover the land. But inventions are often created, right? They come up with a new invention. When they come up with a new gadget, they come up with a new invention. And inventions require creativity because you come up with an invention from a void, right? ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാത്തൊരു അവസ്ഥയിൽ നിന്നാണ് you come up with an invention. So in order to invent something, you have to be creative. Even when you write, if you write in a new style, then that is inventive, that is creative, right? So the word inventive is closely associated with creative. You might think that the word inventive is something related with science, then how can it be creative? But it's not like that. Inventive, in order to invent something, it needs a creative mind, right? So creative and inventive are synonymous to each other. If a writer writes in a very novel manner, we say that the writer is inventive, right? So inventive is synonymous with creative. Another word in the passage which is closer in meaning to shabbiness is shoddiness. The only difference between shabbiness and shoddiness is that when you say that certain things are shabby, then you say that they are old as well as they are not of good quality. Whereas when you say shoddy means not of good quality or made of inferior material, right? So that is the only difference between shabbiness and shoddiness. In both cases, it indicates something which is of bad quality. So it indicates a bad quality. So shabbiness is closely associated with shoddiness. And please take note of the spelling. It is SHODDINESS. Privation is a word related to. Now, when you hear the word privation, you might immediately think that it is closely related with privacy, but it is not. Privacy means, what do you mean by privacy or privacy? When someone says that I need some privacy or privacy, it means that the person needs an alone time, right? The person wishes to spend some time all by himself, a state in which a person is not disturbed by others or not observed by others. That is privacy. That is how it's spelled. But privation, the word has more to do with deprivation. Deprivation is the state of not getting even the essentials, right? Deprivation. So it is more or less connected with deprivation. The exact meaning of the word privation is a state in which food and other essentials or well-being are lacking. Privation means when all your essentials are lacking or your well-being is lacking, then that is privation. So the word privation in that sense is closely associated with deprivation, right? And it is not associated with piracy. What is the meaning of piracy? Pirated CDs എന്നൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. Piracy എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ it is the crime of illegally copying books, videotapes, etc. So it's not piracy either. Or if you steal a ship, that's also piracy. Pirates of the Caribbean, remember? So if you attack a ship or anything, that's also a kind of a piracy. It is from that concept that the later concepts came into being. But here, privation means lacking in essentials, similar to the word deprivation. Deprivation means the synonyms to the word deprivation is poverty, impoverishment, etc. It's a noun. Deprivation is a noun. Again, like privation, it again indicates poverty, impoverishment, etc. Now, in Malayalam, we say illaima. Deprivation illaima എന്ന് പറയും. അതുപോലെ പ്രിവേഷനും എസെൻഷ്യൽസ് പോലും ഇല്ലാത്ത ഇല്ലായ്മയാണ് സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നത്. Tattered, the word is related to. The word is related to എന്നേ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ളൂ. Synonymous എന്നല്ല, related to എന്നേ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ളൂ. റൈറ്റ്, അത് നോക്കുക. ഇപ്പൊ related to എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ tattered, the word is related to clothes. It is not related with paper. You say that I tore a paper or we tear a paper, but when it comes to cloth, we say the cloth is tattered. Tattered means to put holes, or it is often associated with the word cloth. Tattered clothes means clothes with holes which are badly kept. So tattered here is associated with clothes. Tattered clothes, we may say, not tattered noise or anything like that. The word opposite in meaning to the word pitted. Now I said pitted means pokey surfaces, right? Pokey surfaces or bumpy surfaces, or surfaces which are not smooth, surfaces which are rough. So pitted can also mean full of holes, right? Holes, both holes ഒക്കെ ഉള്ള surfaces-നെ നമ്മൾ pitted എന്ന് പറയും. So here the opposite in meaning of the word pitted is smooth. And the opposite word of pitted, the antonym of pitted is smooth, because all the others are somewhat synonymous with pitted. It can also mean filled with holes. It can also mean rough. Clean is nowhere associated with pitted, but smooth is the opposite in meaning to pitted. Antonym of the word economical. Economicalന്റെ opposite word അല്ലെങ്കിൽ antonym എന്താണെന്നാണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. Economical means if you are being cheap, you can say that you are being economical, because you spend according to your means. വരവിനനുസരിച്ച് നമ്മൾ ചെലവ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ economical ആണെന്ന് പറയും. You spend according to your means. So you can say that you can call an economical person a cheap person, but still you are being economical. You won't say I'm being cheap, but you may say that I'm being economical, right? When you spend less for more, you are being economical. So the word political is nowhere associated with economical. The word cheap is associated with economical. Economical, in some sense, it denotes a kind of cheapness. It can also mean inexpensive, but the word that is an opposite in meaning to economical is expensive. I bought an economical car. I bought an expensive car. And there is a difference between the two, right? Now the next question is the word that is correctly spelled here. Now privatization. You might immediately notice that the word privatization here seems to have a E, whereas the word privatization should be written as Privatation. Privatization. It's not privatization, it is privatization. Then craftsmanship. You don't say craftsmanship, right? You don't say craftsmanship, but instead you say craftsmanship. You don't say craftsmanship, but you say craftsmanship. നമ്മൾ ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്സ്മാൻഷിപ്പ് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്, ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്മാൻഷിപ്പ് എന്നല്ല പറയുന്നത്. ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്സ്മാൻഷിപ്പ്, ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്സ് like handicraftsmanship. A person who can do artistic works are known as a craftsman, not a craftman. Craftsman, ഒരു എസിന്റെ അഭാവം അവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. അടുത്തത് ക്രെവിസ് ആണ്. ക്രിവിസ് എന്നാണ് എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത്, ക്രെവിസ് ആണ്, CREVICE. It is not crevice, it is crevice. Holes that are there on walls can be called as crevice. A kind of a narrow opening is called a crevice. It is crevice, not a crevice. Next is identify the wrongly spelt word. Ceiling is spelt correctly. Voltage is spelt correctly. Business is spelled correctly. The only word that is not spelled correctly is hindrance. But people might not choose hindrance because ഇവിടെ hindrance എന്ന് കണ്ടിട്ട് ആൾക്കാർ അത് ചൂസ് ചെയ്യും. But it is hindrance. 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 Right? അപ്പോൾ ഒന്ന് നോട്ട് ചെയ്യുക, ഇവിടെ സ്പെൽഡ് കറക്റ്റ്ലി ആയിട്ടുള്ള വേർഡാണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. ദ വേർഡ് ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് സ്പെൽഡ് കറക്റ്റ്ലി. ഇവിടെ ഇതെല്ലാം തെറ്റിച്ചാണ് എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. പ്രിവറ്റൈസേഷൻ, ക്രിവിസ്, ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്മാൻഷിപ്പ് എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് ഇരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് പ്രൈവറ്റൈസേഷൻ, ക്രാഫ്റ്റ്സ്മാൻഷിപ്പ് ആൻഡ് ക്രെവിസ്. ഷോർഡിനസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന വാക്ക് മാത്രമാണ് ഇവിടെ കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സ്പെൽ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്, അത് പറയാൻ വിട്ടുപോയി. ഷോർഡിനസ്, SHODDINESS. ഷോർഡിനസ് ഇസ് സിമിലർ ഇൻ മീനിങ് ടു ഷാബിനസ്, SHABBINESS. റൈറ്റ്, ഇവിടെ ഷോർഡിനസ് ആണ് കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സ്പെൽ ചെയ്ത വേർഡ്. ഇവിടെ റോങ് ആയിട്ട് സ്പെൽ ചെയ്ത വേർഡാണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്, സ്പെൽഡ് റോങ്ലി ആണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. റൈറ്റ്, ഇവിടെ വി നീഡ് ടു ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ദ വേർഡ് ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് സ്പെൽഡ് റോങ്ലി. സോ ഇവിടെ റോങ് ആയിട്ട് സ്പെൽ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന വേർഡാണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്, സ്പെൽ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന വേർഡാണ് ചോദിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് റോങ്ലി സ്പെൽഡ് വേർഡ് ഇവിടെ ഏതായിരുന്നു? ഹിൻഡറൻസ് അല്ല, ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ഹിൻഡ്രൻസ്, HINDRANCE. Next, we can move on to the practical exercises. So, practical exercises lotu kadakkumbo we have, it was hilarious to see him walk around with a feather in his hair. It was hilarious. You might know the meaning of hilarious. Hilarious means funny. It is not hilly. Hilarious. Hill area ulla aalkar enalla artham varune. Appo hilly enalla artham varune. Hilarious means funny. It is not cruel or kind. It is funny. She cried copious tears when she lost her new shoes. Copious tears. Copy ചെയ്തു കരഞ്ഞു എന്നല്ല ഇവിടെ അർത്ഥം വരുന്നത്. കോപ്പിയസ് ടീയേഴ്സ് മീൻസ് ഷീ ക്രൈഡ് പ്ലെന്റിഫുൾ ടീയേഴ്സ്, ഒരുപാട് കരഞ്ഞു എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥം വരുന്നത്. ഷീ ക്രൈഡ് കോപ്പിയസ് ടീയേഴ്സ്, നിറമിഴികളോടെ. ഓക്കെ, ഒരുപാട് കരഞ്ഞു എന്നാണ് കോപ്പിയസ് ടീയേഴ്സിന്റെ അർത്ഥം. ഷീ ക്രൈഡ് കോപ്പിയസ് ടീയേഴ്സ് വെൻ ഷീ ലോസ്റ്റ് ഹർ ന്യൂ ഷൂസ്. പ്ലെന്റിഫുൾ ടീയേഴ്സ്, വാസ്റ്റ് അല്ല, മെസ്സി അല്ല, പ്ലെന്റിഫുൾ ടീയേഴ്സ് എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥം വരുന്നത്. റൈറ്റ്, ഒരുപാട് കരഞ്ഞു. The burned effigy of the despot, they burned the effigy of the despot in the town square. They burned the effigy of the despot. What is the meaning that is synonymous with effigy? Effigy എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ യൂഷ്വലി നമ്മൾ ഐഡൽസിനെ കൊണ്ടുപോയി കടലിൽ ഒഴുക്കുന്നതിനെ എഫിജി എന്ന് പറയാറുണ്ട്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഡമ്മീസിനെയൊക്കെ നടുത്തെരുവിൽ വെച്ച് കത്തിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഏർപ്പാടുണ്ട്, കോലം കത്തിക്കുക എന്ന് പറയും. അതിനെയും നമ്മളൊരു എഫിജി എന്ന് പറയാറുണ്ട്. ഇവിടെ ഒരു ഡെസ്പോട്ടിന്റെ എഫിജിയാണ്. ഡെസ്പോട്ട് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ വളരെ ക്രൂവൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള റൂളർ ആണ് ഡെസ്പോട്ട് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഒരു ഡെസ്പോട്ടിന്റെ എഫിജിയാണ് അവർ കത്തിച്ചത്, ബേൺ ചെയ്തത്. ദേ ബേൺഡ് ദി എഫിജി ഓഫ് ദ ഡെസ്പോട്ട്. ബേൺഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് V3 ഫോം ഓഫ് ബേൺ ആണ്. റൈറ്റ്, ബേൺഡ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ V3 ഫോം ഓഫ് ബേൺ ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ ദേ ബേൺഡ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ കത്തിച്ചു എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥം. എഫിജി എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇവിടെ അർത്ഥം വരുന്നത് ഡമ്മി എന്നാണ്. റൈറ്റ്, സ്റ്റാച്യു എന്നല്ല, ഡമ്മി എന്നാണ്. ചിലർക്കെങ്കിലും സ്റ്റാച്യു എന്ന് തോന്നും, പക്ഷെ സ്റ്റാച്യുവിനെ നമുക്ക് കത്തിക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ? സ്റ്റാച്യൂലൊക്കെ കാണുന്ന സ്റ്റാച്യൂസിനെ നമുക്ക് കത്തിക്കാനൊന്നും പറ്റില്ല. റൈറ്റ്, ബിക്കോസ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് മെയ്ഡ് ഓഫ് മെറ്റൽ. ബട്ട് ഹിയർ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ഡമ്മി. എഫിജി ഓഫ് ദ ഡെസ്പോട്ട് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അത് കോലം, അതുമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത കോലം കത്തിക്കുക, അതിലെ കോലമാണ്. സോ ഡമ്മി ആണ് ഇവിടുത്തെ കറക്റ്റ് ആൻസർ. Now choose the most suitable one-word substitute for the phrase in italics. Right? Families of small pest-like rats inhabited the studio. എന്ത് കഷ്ട, families of small pest-like rats inhabited the studio. എന്ത് പാടാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ പറയാൻ. പക്ഷേ if you have read the passage, you might immediately remember that such a line was there in the passage. Right? See, some of the families of rodents that inhabit the rafters have lived there ever since the foundation of the industries. അതേ മീനിങ് വരുന്നതാണ് ഇവിടെ വരുന്ന വാക്കെന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Let me take it. Families of small pets like rats. Small pets like rats are called rodents. ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞു rodents എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ they are pests like rat, meese, etc. Rafters എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ rafters are the kind of framework over which you put your roof. വയ്ക്കുന്നതിന് മുന്നേ നമ്മളൊരു ഫ്രെയിംവർക്ക് കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ചെയ്യുമല്ലോ, ആ ഫ്രെയിംവർക്കിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ റാഫ്റ്റേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. റൈറ്റ്. പണ്ടൊക്കെ കഴുക്കോൽ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയാറുണ്ട്. ഒരു ഫ്രെയിം നമ്മൾ കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ചെയ്ത് അതിൻ്റെ മേലെയാണ് നമ്മൾ റൂഫ് വെക്കുന്നത്. അതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ റാഫ്റ്റേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. കാനൈൻസ് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പട്ടികൾ എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥം. കാനിസ് ഫെമിലിയാരിസ് ഇസ് ദ സയന്റിഫിക് നെയിം ഓഫ് ഡോഗ്. കാനൈൻസ് മീൻസ് dogs. Satyajit Ray is a world-famous Bengali film director who is involved in all audio-visual elements of his films. A film director who is involved in all audio-visual elements of his films is known by the name author. If a director is involved in all the audio-visual elements of his film, then he is known as an author, because he is a very experienced director. Only a very experienced director, only a true filmmaker will be able to get involved in all the elements of the film, like audio-visual elements. So such a person is known by the name author. കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഡയറക്ടറിന് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ വലിയൊരു പദവി, ഡയറക്ടറിനെ കാട്ടിയും കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് നമ്മൾ കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഓഥേഴ്സിനാണ്. റൈറ്റ്, ഓഥർ. It's not an actor. Actor is the person who acts in the film. An author is a person who writes a book. And a producer is the one who produces the film. And author is the person who is involved in the audio-visual elements of the film. Next, let's find antonyms for the words that are given in italics, or opposite words to the words given in italics. February 14 was set as a tentative date for the wedding. When you say tentative date, that means it is a temporary date. It is subject to change. When someone says that my research proposal has a tentative title, then it means that the title can be changed. Tentative means changeable. The opposite of tentative then is final. Tentative has the meaning of being temporary, being casual, etc. So here the opposite. So tentative here means final. Final enna arthamana. Oh sorry, tentative in the opposite aanu. Here is final. Tentative means temporary. Temporary title nana tentative title ennu parayunnathu. Tentative date means temporary dates. It is subject to change. Whereas when you say final, adinoru finality undu. Final date ennu parayunnathu, right? So February 14 was set as the tentative date of the wedding. Antonym for the word tentative is final. I must say you look very urbane in this suit. Urbane means it has something to do with the city. Urban has something to do with the city. Urbane means elegant look. Okay, if you look elegant, then that is urbane. വളരെ എലഗൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടിരിക്കുക, അതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഏർബെയിൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇതിൻ്റെ സിനണിമാണ് എലഗൻ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഏർബെയിനിൻ്റെ സിനണിമാണ് എലഗൻ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഏർബെയിൻ നമ്മൾ ഏർബെയിൻ ഷീക്ക് ലുക്ക് എന്നൊക്കെ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ പറയാറുണ്ട്, റൈറ്റ്? ഏർബെയിൻ എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് മെനി സിനണിംസ് as well. I think there is even a brand these days by the name of Urbane. Urbane means sophisticated, suave, etc., elegant, etc., cultivated look. The opposite of cultivated look is crude. Crude എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ്. Crude എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ if you have a very kind of a പാറിപ്പറന്ന മുടി എന്നൊക്കെ പറയില്ലേ, എങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു അപ്പിയറൻസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ, വളരെ ഷാബി അപ്പിയറൻസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ, you say crude. So I must say you look very urbane in this suit, or you might say that I must say that you look very crude in this t-shirt, right? So you get the meaning of urbane and crude, right? Urbane means sophisticated, urbane, elegant, etc. Whereas crude means it is the exact opposite of urbane. Crude means unrefined, primitive, etc. You look like a primitive man. That is crude. Crude look. The director strained every nerve to get the right ambience for the shot. Here we need to find the correct meaning of the idiom that is given in italics. Strained every nerve. Strained every nerve here means made utmost effort. When you take utmost effort, suppose you are lifting something and you take utmost effort in lifting it, then you strain every nerve, right? So here, the correct meaning of the idiom strained every nerve is made utmost effort. It does not mean that the person has a sprained nerve, then that would be the literal meaning. ഒരു sprained nerve ഉണ്ടായി എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥം, nerve sprain ഉണ്ടായി എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥം. It doesn't mean that you look nervous, because whenever you use the word nerve, you might associate it with the word nervous, but it is not like that. It does not mean got nervous. It means you made utmost effort. The director made utmost effort to get the right ambience for the shot. When it comes to Satyajit Ray, he takes utmost effort in order to get the right shot, right? In Pathar Panchali, there is a scene of rain and he took utmost effort to shoot it in the right manner, to get the right ambience. So, strained every nerve here is an idiom. And the right meaning of that idiom is made utmost effort. It's not sprained his nerve, it's not got nervous. Orka, sprained his nerve എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ലിറ്ററൽ മീനിങ് പോലെ ആവും. ഇഡിയംസിന്റെ കേസിൽ ഇഡിയംസിന് എപ്പോഴും ഒരു മെറ്റഫോറിക്കൽ മീനിങ്ങേ ഉണ്ടാവും. മെയ്ഡ് അറ്റ്മോസ്റ്റ് എഫേർട്ട് ആണ് ഇവിടുത്തെ മെറ്റഫോറിക്കൽ മീനിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. When Ron said he lost his progress card, his mother smelt a rat. Smelt a rat here means suspected a foul play. Smelt a rat means suspected a foul play. എന്തോ ചീഞ്ഞ് നാറുന്നുണ്ട് എന്നൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയാറില്ലേ, അതുപോലെയാണ്. It does not mean the mother literally found a rat in his bag. It does not mean that she thought that the rat ate it, but it means that she suspected a foul play. Ron എന്തോ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് ആൻസർ ഷീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട്. So she suspected a foul play. Right. Now, the next question is, find the meaning of the word hindrance. Hindrance is kind of an obstruction from the passage given, and use it in a sentence of your own. Here it means obstruction. The passage it means obstruction. Hindrance, right? Let me take the passage. I do not think of these as hindrances. Here it clearly means obstructions. I do not think of these as obstructions. So that is the meaning of the word hinder. മലയാളത്തിൽ തടസ്സം എന്ന് പറയും, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ ഇംപെഡിമെന്റ്, ഒബ്സ്റ്റക്കിൾ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയും, ബാരിയർ, ഒബ്സ്ട്രക്ഷൻ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയും. സോ അങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു സെൻസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ഹിൻഡ്രൻസ് വെച്ചിട്ട് ഒരു വേർഡ് ഫോം ചെയ്യാം. The dam created a hindrance to the freely flowing stream. The dam created a hindrance to the freely flowing stream. The dam created a hindrance to the freely flowing stream. അത് നമുക്കൊരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആയിട്ട് എടുക്കാം. അതുപോലെ നിങ്ങൾ വേർഡ്സ് ഫോം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് നോക്കാം. With that, we come to an end to this lecture. Thank you for listening. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Thank you for listening. Take care.